everyone, it's Kelly with Women for One, and today I am so excited to be speaking with one of the greatest wellness activists I know in this world, Kris Carr. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you so much for talking to us at the Women for One community because I have loved you for so many years. I've loved your books. You spoke at Emerging Women last year,
Mm.
where I heard you for the first time live. And as you know, there were some incredible people speaking there. And there's something about when you speak, you can tell it's from wisdom and experience. And I just get this feeling in my heart when you speak that is like,
Oh, thank you.
yes. and and then when I get your emails, I feel like it's like a sister, or a best friend, like, what's up? And I just always feel like I want to read what you have to say. So
Oh, thank you. That
yeah.
means a lot to me.
And
Thank you.
and our community feels, I hope that our community really gets that from our conversation today, because
Mm.
I feel like you have a lot of great wisdom to share from the right place.
Well,
So
I'm excited.
yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about you, and I don't usually read bios because they're going to be
That's
on
fine.
but I have to talk a little bit, and I don't want to forget a few things. So I'm going to say a few things. You're a New York Times bestselling author of your Crazy Sex book series, which, oh no,
Crazy,
did I just
sexy.
did I just say
Yeah,
crazy sex?
I do not have crazy
I
sex,
know,
and
me
I
neither.
actually don't know how,
I,
but
w I
thank you.
wish. Crazy sexy. Okay, that was funny. Okay,
That's
Crazy
awesome.
Sexy Books, Diet and Crazy Sexy Kitchen is a couple of them. You're also the subject and director of the documentary Crazy Sexy Cancer, which I'm really excited. I have not seen, and I would really love to see that. You've been on Oprah. You've kind of done it all in a lot of ways. And what I love is that your message is touching millions, and it's a
Mm.
truthful, authentic message.
Thank you.
So welcome.
I'm so psyched.
Yeah. So I want to start with asking you a little bit about your journey so
Mhm.
that people at Women for One that haven't heard of Kris Carr will
Mhm.
know a little bit about where you came from and how you came to be imparting this wisdom on so many people. And I want to start with Oprah's quote about you because I
Mm.
loved it, where she just said, Kris Carr's riveting journey started a revolution. So can you
Mm.
can you tell us a little bit about your journey to this
Yeah,
point?
so like so many people, I was living a very different lifestyle and a different career and job and just a whole other existence prior to this big wake up call that I had in my life. And oftentimes these wake up calls can really inspire us into action. They can also inspire us into paralysis sometimes, but
Hmm.
I don't know, hopefully they're moving towards action. And I was 31 years old in 2003 when I was diagnosed with this rare and incurable stage 4 cancer. So, I went from one day having a whole other job and outlook on life to being told that I had dozens of tumors in my liver and both of my lungs, and that I may have 10 years to live, and that, suggested I get a triple organ transplant. And I was very overwhelmed and frightened. And I knew that I probably wasn't going to be cured. But when I got very honest with myself, I was clear on the fact that I wasn't feeling good for quite some time and that I really wanted to participate in my health. I didn't want to
Hmm.
just sit around and wait for CAT scans and kind of, you know, continuing not taking care of myself and not being so happy. And so the disease that I have is slow growing, and sometimes it can become aggressive. For the past 13 years, it's been pretty much stable. And I was very inspired to learn self care
Hmm.
and to honor myself and learn to love all that is, even the parts that I'm not so psyched about sometimes. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
just and really just explore what is it like to truly live this life for however long I have it. How can I feel great, participate, kick ass, change my job, like really just have a good time and make the most of it. And I started to write about my journey, and certainly in the early days, I was writing specifically for cancer patients because I was learning so much and researching so much about
Hmm.
specifically integrative care and how we can contribute in between doctor visits. And then after I was on Oprah, I was pretty much surprised by the number of people who didn't have cancer who said, you know what, I haven't been feeling so great. And
Right.
I'm struggling with all of these things, including a shit ton of baggage, and
Yep.
I'm depressed, and I'm too stressed out. How can I live a better life
Mm-hmm.
and honor myself? And so that's when I just started to write for a much larger audience, and I continue to be on the path myself, first and foremost. And things change as I change. And what I was writing when I was 31 is very different from what I'm writing at 44. So
Right.
it's a process. And it's an exciting process that I feel very blessed about.
That's awesome. So, at Women for One, we encourage women to share their most cherished experiences. And I love that about how any woman can come and share their story here. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to ask you specifically, what tools do you use in your life and do you ask women for self-care to utilize to become more empowered and joyful in their lives and passionate about being on this planet, kind of like what you were just talking about?
Mm-hmm. Well, I love, you said the word when I thought about that question earlier. We all have these very powerful experiences and we all have incredible wisdom. And I think that stories are what moves us. So when we have the courage to share our stories in an unfiltered, raw, real way, that's when we touch other people. And the truth is that we're all more similar than we are different. And sometimes you can read the best medical article, or you can read the most
Mm-hmm.
intelligent scholarly advice on sleep or whatever it is. But when you hear another woman's story and she's willing to really go there with you and be your girlfriend and your friend and understand you and get in a pit with you, and lift you up, I think that's when we move others. So I always encourage my readers, and certainly my students and just the people in my community, that they have the wisdom within them. It's the vulnerability and that willingness to put it out there. Our authenticity is what will change the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the more of us women who do that, who put these messages out there and share our stories and our collective, goals and dreams and setbacks, I think then that's when we can really rally each other and rise as a community.
Isn't that true? Like, and
Yeah.
also the other place in that made me think when you were speaking is around the shame piece, because I know I had so much shame my whole life about my story. And the more I talk about it and have that courage to not feel as alone, to share how I feel,
Mm-hmm.
the less I care if I'm judged for it. You know?
That's really wonderful. Because here's the thing, people are going to judge and they're
Yeah.
going to have their opinions, and the internet is a wonderful petri dish for trolls. And it is just the way of the modern age, where there's a lot more room for conversations, so there's a lot more room for negativity as well.
Right.
But we can never shrink in the face of that, because the truth is that it's so easy for us to be afraid to put ourselves out there because of the 3 people who are going to say something cranky, as opposed to the thousands of people who would say, you know what, you just made such an impact on my life. Thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. Isn't it the truth?
Yeah.
It's so true. And I think, we, as you did, we create what we need to learn in a lot of ways, right?
Mm.
So creating Women for One has helped me come out of the closet and be less secret and not have that shame and reach out for that support so we don't feel as alone.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So with what you've been through and where you are today, can you share some ways that you find, as women, we're challenged with the balance piece of life? We're overwhelmed. I know I am. I have 6 children, and
Wow.
and it's a busy life, right? You got a lot going on, and you want to be the best this and the best this, but bottom line, we just all want to be joyful and live our
Yeah.
lives, right? And be happy in our bodies. That's, for me, that's my bottom line. So how do you find that you coach women and also coach yourself to find balance in our lives?
That's an ongoing process for me, and I can't say that things are always balanced. I mean, sometimes things are really messy. Sometimes they fall apart. Sometimes there's chaos. Sometimes I have temper tantrums. Like it's a real amazing goal to create a balanced life, but I think it's easier said than done. And what we have to realize is that this is part of it. The seasons change, we change, and the truth is that if we can just be more compassionate with ourselves and our busyness, then balance and ease actually come more naturally when we're just kinder. Now, of course, like, look, if you got too much on your to-do list, you got to take an inventory and say, this is insane. I can't get all of this done. What needs to go? What are my top priorities? What's going to create the greatest return on investment in my spiritual life, not just my bank account? So I'm very mindful about how much work I can take on, but I'm in the middle of a launch right now. So I'm definitely stretched, and so there are those times where it's time to stretch. It's time to push. We have a lot of potential, each and every one of us. And sometimes life asks us to push a little further beyond our comfort zone. That said, we can't live in that space all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's this dance where I think, ultimately we develop a really solid relationship with ourselves so that we do know what our limitations are. We can push when we need to, but we also contract when we need to. And to try to set up something that's perfect is such a waste of time, because nothing is perfect. Perfect is even perfect. I think the root word, I might not completely be right about this. I think the root of the word perfect is actually just thorough. If we've made it this crazy unobtainable thing, but it's just thorough. So
thorough. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that gives me a lot of balance is connecting with myself on a daily basis, even if it's just for 5 minutes. I have a disabled dog, so I start every day with him in the woods. He's in a wheelie cart, and we may take 5 minutes. We may take a half an hour, but that time with him in the woods is so valuable to me, because I know, like right now, things are busy. So once I get to my desk, it's on. But I've started by connecting with nature, by connecting with someone I love dearly, and that really fuels me.
Okay, I love that you just said that, because lately when I've gotten interviewed, the first thing I talk about is my new puppy.
Yay! I love talking.
And because as you say, but what I loved about what you just said about the aha for me was around stretching your potential, because I went through a phase of burnout with Women for One last year. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I have to wake up every day and say, what is it I want to get out of this day? And the puppy, actually, like a baby or something, helps me stay grounded in, like, he just wants to be walked and play. Like, it's been so great for me. Something that simple, I didn't realize after having 6 teenagers, that would make things so much better for me. That puppy.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So, it's so interesting, because I was watching Oprah interview Brene Brown the other day on Soul Series, and I wrote down this question to ask you, and you pretty much answered it. But I said, what are the principles and values that you hold true in your life on a daily basis? And you kind of went there about that morning space of just calmness before you go, okay, move on. And I feel like that evening one works as well, doesn't it? It's like to have that morning space.
Absolutely. I think it's a very important sacredness that we can develop, and it's a very individual thing, but it's so easy to burn out. I've burnt out before running KrisCarr.com and my previous businesses, and I always say to myself, like, I'm here to spread the word about health and wellness, not to kill myself along the way of spreading the word of health and wellness, you know what I mean? And so taking that time in the morning is really crucial for me. But there are other things too that I value, and one of them is kindness. That's the principle of my wellness plan, is kindness. Whether it's through the food that I'm eating, the time that I spend with myself, what I share in the world. You'll never see negativity coming from me. And it doesn't mean that I don't have a rainbow of emotion, but it's not what I put out there, because I think that we need a world where we feel safe. And right now, especially online, there are plenty of places where we don't feel safe. So cultivating that kindness is a very big core value and principle for me. I'm also very in touch with my fear. And I see fear as a advisor on my team, not something that I have to overcome or become fearless or invincible or crush or manipulate or smash. Like fear gives me a lot of guidance, but I'm very aware of when it's running the show. And when I need to say, thank you so much for your opinion here, but I got this. But certainly it's the thing that got me to the doctor in the first place. So I would never poo-poo fear and say that it has no place in my psyche. It certainly has a place, but it's just not leading it all. So, that's a long-winded way to say, like, ultimately, the best thing you can do is cultivate that relationship with yourself and really get to know yourself, because from that space, you really, I think, can do anything.
I love the cultivating the relationship with yourself. And the other thing, when you talked about kindness, it definitely comes through on everything that you put out in the world. And that's why I'm so drawn to you. And it's funny, I was saying earlier to one of my best friends yesterday, I was like, I'm a little nervous to talk to Kris. And she went, are you kidding me? She's like the nicest person. Like, she's read all your ratings. Like, she's so sweet, right? And it's true. Like, everybody I talk to, it's like, Kris is just kind. So you've really gone there with that part of it. And then the other part around fear, I love that, because I'm writing a book called The Messy Truth, which is, so I'm about to finish my manuscript. It's called The Messy Truth. So it's about being messy and just getting in there. And when you talk about fear, I agree. Fear, I can use as fuel sometimes. Yeah. And it's just another place that you can cultivate the relationship with yourself. And I'm going to remember that from you, because it's cultivating that and knowing yourself and being okay with who you are is what I hear you saying.
Absolutely. That sounds like a wonderful book. I can't wait to read it.
I'm excited about it. So I want to talk a little bit about your launch and your new book, because I'm really excited about it, because I'm on a new Candida clearing cleanse right now.
Good for you.
So it's changed my life in 2 weeks. It's amazing how quickly something, when you commit to it with that intention, can shift you. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about your new book that you're launching?
Yeah, sure. Here it is. It's,
Yay!
It's Crazy Sexy Juice. And it's so fun. I actually just saw it for the first time a few weeks ago. And it's always such an incredible process. I worked on this book for 2 years. And then to take it from manuscript form, where it's just stained and it's been, munched over a million times. And at some point, you just never want to see it again. And then it goes off to print and it comes back. I'm like, hello, child. Child, you're beautiful.
It's nice to hear that from an experienced author. I'm new and I'm already worn out.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the process.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. If you love every part of writing, then there's something wrong with you. So,
good.
Along the way, over the years, I've taught people a lot about nutrition and diet and lifestyle, but the number one question I get is, tell me about your juicing practice. What's the difference between juicing and blending? And there's so many different, people are confused. And my goal is to just help people eat more plants. Really, I think that there's so much healing power in the plant kingdom. And I have a couple of previous books that are cookbooks and diet books, but this is honestly the fastest way to get your fruits and vegetables. And what was fun about creating it is that I could really experiment with so many different types of recipes. There's 102 juice and smoothie and nut milk recipes in the book. So it was just like, you know what? I really love oatmeal cookies. Let me see if I can make a healthy oatmeal cookie. Oh, I loved creamsicles when I was a kid. Can I make a healthy creamsicle?
That's so awesome. I can't wait to get that.
It's really fun. And when you're on Candida diet, so once you're done with that, you'll be able to add some fruit back. Until then, you're going to be like probably clean with your, including lemons and ginger. But once you're through that, then you can have some fun. You go back into the world of mangoes. So yeah, it's like one of many tools that I have put out in the world. And this one, I think, will hopefully have a really big impact, because most of us have a blender. We may not feel comfortable in the kitchen. We may not know how to make all of the greatest dinners and lunches and snacks and breakfasts for our families. We can figure out how to be badasses with our blender.
Okay, badasses with the blender. I'm in.
We can do that. You know what I mean? Like we can climb that mountain and put a flag in that.
So, how did you come up with all the recipes? I'm just curious. You just experimented or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of experimenting, and I have people who help me test and help me create, and literally, it's just about mapping out a whole, just like any arc of a story or the chapters in your book that you're writing now. Like, what are all the beats and flavors and colors, and what are all the different seasons that I want to, create recipes for, and are there holiday recipes? And it's for me, it's an incredibly creative process, and I spend a lot of time in the kitchen, and I also got inspiration from a cookie recipe. You know what I mean? I'll get inspiration from anything. I'll be like, can I blend that? Can I make that? What can I put in my blender?
And briefly, before someone signs up for your mailing list, what is the difference between juicing and blending? Can you give us like three things?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple, but it is so confusing for a lot of people, and certainly was confusing for me for a long time. So a juice basically goes through a juicer. It extracts the fiber, so you're not getting any of the fiber. You're just getting the liquid nutrients, and that is hitting your system almost instantly. You're getting the vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, etc. You also may be getting perhaps some more nutrition because it takes so much more fruits and veggies to make that juice.
Right.
And then a smoothie includes all the fiber. You're putting it all in the blender. Nothing's coming out into the catch basket. All that fiber's in there. And that's awesome because the truth is that we need fiber. So some people say, well, if we need fiber, why the heck would we make a juice? Hopefully what we're doing is we're improving our overall diet and lifestyle so that we are getting enough fiber. Some people really don't like the texture of smoothies. Some people just really get lit up and feel great with their juicing practice. So I've created a world where there's plenty of both recipes.
That's awesome.
And
I like blending.
Yeah, blending's great.
Yeah.
Most people, 60% of American households have blenders. So blending is a big thing. It's a lot more accessible. It's faster. And because you get your fiber, if folks are dealing with problems with their blood sugar or their type 2 diabetes and whatnot, you have to be mindful about blood sugar. Fiber helps to balance blood sugar. And then certainly with smoothies, you can include some ingredients that your juicer would just get pissed off at. Like your juicer will get pissed off if you try to put an avocado through it. Just don't do it. You know what I mean? So like healthy fats and, chia seeds and hemp seeds that are high in protein. So in some ways, there's more things that you can put in your smoothie, but again, they're both really, really wonderful for you. And you can explore both options, or you could just pick one and stick with it.
That's great. So you have several books, and for someone that's new to you, can you just talk about your overall? You're all about wellness. You're not just about juicing. You're about wellness inside and out. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe that the foundation of health comes from what we're eating, what we're drinking, and what we're thinking. Certainly, our genes play a role in whether or not we are dealing with a chronic condition, etc. But our genes are not the whole story. And in fact, sometimes we can have a predisposition for something and we don't necessarily pull the trigger, so to speak, because we have changed our lifestyle. We've actually made an impact on our DNA. And in the beginning of my journey, I was very focused on food and nutrition, and I think it starts on your plate, and nature is the answer. The garden is where the medicine is. I 100% believe that. As I've grown as an author and as a wellness seeker and somebody who experiments all the time, and I get older and things change, I'm really, really interested in the conversation of what we're thinking. Because stress is our number one killer. In my opinion, it's not heart disease followed by cancer, followed by stroke. It's stress. So when we look at our overall lifestyle, how are we making soul deposits? How are we making energy deposits instead of like these constant health withdrawals? And I often say, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but like really take that inventory, weigh it, check in with yourself. What's disturbing you the most right now? Where do you think that you should put the most energy right now? It's usually, for some people, you might say, well, you know what? I have not exercised in so freaking long. And the truth is that I am cranky and I'm not pooping.
Isn't that the truth? I
And
get
I'm cranky and I'm not pooping. I don't feel good in my jeans, bro. And that is wrecking my head. And that's where we need to put some of the energy.
it.
Other people might say, I'm just really feeling really bad about myself. My self-esteem is in the toilet. I'm not feeling very confident right now. So how can we create a wellness plan around raising your confidence?
It almost starts with the thought, doesn't it?
I think
really
it does.
And
It
I've noticed that
does.
more I'm 47, more in my 40s than I've noticed in my 30s. My body could still kind of get by. You know, it wasn't giving me the red flags that I needed yet. I was ignoring those, you know. Now I'm like, oh, you mean if I eat French fries a lot, I can't put my jeans on?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And then you can eat French fries.
I
We love French
poop.
fries. But we can't eat them every day. Yeah.
So I totally get it. It just starts with the mind, doesn't it?
It sure does. And, I think that it's easy for us to create a huge wellness to-do list. And we have to really just check in, going back to the whole conversation about balance, and see what we really need to do right now, and know that we cannot do it all at once. And in my mind, I don't think you can have it all either. I think sometimes the search for having it all, or the quest for having it all, leads to burnout. For me, if I imagine having it all, I actually don't think that I could maintain all. I think that I would drown in the responsibility of all.
Right.
Like even making twice as much income as I make right now in some fantasy land that's like, oh, that's so cool. Think about all the things I could have. But when I think about what it would actually take to make twice as much income, I'm like, I'm exhausted.
No,
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with what I'm making. But
So
how do you think you can sustain that change? And that's a big one for me these days. I was talking to Christine Hassler last week about, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but transforming and sustaining that change, that shift, where you can't have it all. But for example, I have weight challenges, right? In the past 2 years, my hormones have been all messed up, like a lot of women, and I beat myself up about it. And I start something and then I stop and then I get discouraged. And then it's like, how do we sustain that enough that it's enough for us? Like, how is it enough?
Well, all I can do is speak to my own experience. Right. And for me, I get very clear about what it is that matters to me, how I want to feel, how I want my life to look. Not the delusion of all the stuff that I want, and when this happens, life will be perfect. Like when I get skinny, life will be perfect. When I don't have cancer, life will be perfect. Like that to me is a waste of the conversation, because the truth is that all it does is create more suffering and stuff for us, more shimpa, as they say in Buddhism, the stuff that gets us hooked. When I'm very clear on what it is that matters, it's very easy for me to say yes to things and no to other things. And when I say you can't have it all, it's not, I don't want people to think like, oh, boo. You're getting clearer about what all is. You're getting really specific, because your version of all could be like, hey, this piece of it that I'm talking about, that's enough. And I'm so psyched with this life that I've created for myself. Everything else was just big and grand and full of like a lot more work and struggle and anxiety and chaos, quite honestly. And as far as like dealing with the health issues or the beating ourselves up about not being where we want to be, I think that that's a symptom of something different than
what it is. What it's presenting as.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
I agree with that. I agree. Yet I'm really feeling good on this Candida cleanse, and I am committed to 2 more weeks, and then I commit to 2 more weeks to see where I am and check in. And that's the only way I've found for me, like you said, get to know yourself, cultivate that relationship. At the age of almost 50, I'm like, okay, that works for me. It's working now. So that's how I'm going to sustain some change for now.
I want to go back briefly to a practice that helps me, because I have cancer and that's not changing, right? It's something that I'm living with. And so it would be very easy for me to get angry at my body or to kind of try to distance myself from my body or blame my body in some way, be frustrated. And there have been times, so I've absolutely felt that. And there may be times that I feel it again. But the more I practice loving kindness and the more I say, I accept you exactly how you are. There's 24 tumors in you, and I accept you exactly how you are. You are magnificent right here, right now. Not when they're gone, not when you're a size, whatever it is that's in your head, right now. And the more I speak to myself that way, and when I find myself going down a rabbit hole of I'm not this, that, or the other thing, I love and accept you exactly as you are right here, right now. And I'm telling you that practice, when you do it regularly, it does start to shift things for you. And for those who are struggling with weight issues, being able to start saying, I love you. I love all of my bits and pieces and parts and whatever it is that's, like hanging off of my ass. I love you. I find that you'd be surprised that weight starts to shift more naturally from that space than from the space of, oh my God, you're so disgusting, I've got to get rid of you.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I've been standing in front of the mirror naked lately trying to do that. To the best of my ability. Not the second one, the first one. I love you. I love
you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just a deprogramming for me. And for
It
a lot
is
of us.
for all of us, honey. You know what? I don't know. I've never spoken to one woman who hasn't had issues around her weight, even the people who are like super skinny.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, but I love the practice loving kindness, coming back to that. Not just putting it out in the service of the world like you're doing, but most importantly, practice loving kindness to yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so like if I was standing in front of the mirror naked right now, I might be like, even though I'm not that thrilled with that bunch of cellulite that I'm seeing on my ass right now, I love and accept myself anyway. I wouldn't be just like slapping an affirmation on it like, that cellulite's pretty. No, it's not. But I love and accept it and me anyway.
It's the accepting part that helps me, It's like I'm trying to love, I'm loving and accepting, I'm
just loving and accepting myself. You know what I mean?
Yes, I love it. I love that. So I have one last question, and it's more about a piece of advice or wisdom that you want to share with our community before we close this beautiful conversation that women can take away and really use it as a mantra or use it in any way that would uplift them in their lives.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that come to mind. I'll share two with you, if that's okay.
Sure.
The first is that add goodness into your life before you subtract stuff. So you might say, I want to change my diet, and you immediately go to deprivation. But what I would suggest is add the smoothie, add a plate of veggies, you know what I mean? Like, don't take anything out yet. Just start to add good things, and you'll slowly start to edge out the stuff that doesn't serve you. Because so often we do the opposite. We put ourselves into deprivation, we strip out all of the goodies, and then we wonder why it doesn't last very long and we're cranky and upset. Right? Beautiful. So add goodness.
I'm already thinking of all my goodies that I add.
Add the goodies, and you'll be surprised. Because when you start to feel better, I think we naturally go, you know what? I don't really need that. I feel really good right now, so I don't necessarily need that. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, I was just talking about this in another interview, and I think it's super powerful. A friend of mine taught me this exercise. It's called the 3 wins. So every night when I'm with my husband and we're kind of reflecting on our day, I always ask him, what were your 3 wins today? And those wins could be, I paid the bills on time. One could be that, or for me or him, it might be, when I was outside today, walking Buddy this afternoon, our dog, I really took a moment and I breathed in the autumn air and the leaves crunching under my feet. And it was just such a wonderful moment that I really gave myself. Or it could be, wow, I stood in front of the mirror today and I said so many nasty things, but then I just giggled.
That would be a win. That would be a win.
Giggled at myself rather than, driving the anger and sadness and disapproval into my tissues. So I love doing that exercise because I think oftentimes as seekers, which we all are, we're always looking for something we don't have. We're always adding things to our to-do list, whether it's our wellness to-do list or our business to-do list to improve ourselves. And I believe in stretching. I believe that we all have the power to improve. But I also believe that there's so many blessings in our lives every single day, big and small, that we may just brush by because we have a different agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And
so get present.
Yes,
Yeah, yes.
that like, and you can do it with your kids. Like if you sat around the table with your kids and said, "All right, we're doing this thing. It might sound really hokey to you, but we're doing it. It's called Three Wins." You would be surprised the conversation that would start to happen, and they probably start to want to do the 3 wins conversation at dinner or over the holidays. You know what I mean?
I love that. And the first thing I thought of was yesterday I was talking to my husband, and he's going through a rough time with his mother right now as she's aging. And I said, okay, let's have a good day, you know? And I said to him, I said, so how was your day last night? And he said, I have a couple good things to share. He said, I got to cuddle with my wife in the morning. And he went through the positives, and there were 3 or 4 of them. And he was like, they were little, but I think I need to say these daily. So we're right in line. Like it just started. We just did this yesterday.
That's so cool. That's so great. It's really good.
The
3 wins, baby.
So everyone listen to Kris because she knows what she's talking about. And I am so excited I could talk to you for another 4 hours. I feel like I want to go have a cocktail with you or something.
Ditto.
or a smoothie, a juicer, a juicy. So thank you so much for joining us. And we really are honored with all your service in the world. And I really wish you well, Kris.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later.